Quarter. Brilliant. And we'll get started. So this morning, beginning in a seated shape, as always, very welcome to come to a lying down position if that feels better for you. Leading with your body. So allowing your body to be your teacher and beginning to listen and notice its needs this morning. Finding your comfortable seated position. It might be cross-legged, it might be kneeling, it might be seated in a chair. Maybe taking a couple of shoulder rolls if you have come to seated. Beginning to wake up your shoulders. And finding stillness in your own time. When you're ready, you may like to soften your gaze or close your eyes. Palms can rest face down or face up. Taking a moment here to ensure you feel a sense of stillness, grounding, and ease in the shape you've come to. Maybe beginning to notice areas of tension or tightness, but also areas of ease and softness, helping us to inform our practice this morning. And if it feels possible, breathing in and out through your nose. And beginning to find yourself in this present moment, consciously breathing. Maybe beginning to notice the movement in your body as you inhale and exhale. Checking in with the length through your spine, softness in your shoulders, and encouraging your tongue to rest in the lower part of your mouth. You may find it helpful as you breathe in to direct your breath downwards towards your belly. So a sense of your inhalation moving down to the lower lobes of your lungs. And as you exhale, sense of your exhalation moving upwards. Directing your breath, the lowest part of your lungs where the majority of the gas exchange takes place in our bodies. And if that doesn't feel possible or feels a little tight this morning, knowing that simply directing the breath and visualizing your breath moving downwards is having the same effect on the parasympathetic nervous system, so our rest and digest side of our nervous system. Maybe you begin to notice some movement towards the back of your body. Maybe even around your lumbar spine. And if you would like to, perhaps you begin to extend your exhalation just by a moment. And if it's helpful to count to yourself in your head or gently pressing your fingertips onto your knees or legs. Using any method that helps you to gently extend your exhalation if that feels possible this morning. Breathing in, directing your breath to the lower lobes of your lungs, and breathing out, directing your breath upwards. And in your own time, when you're ready, letting go of an extended exhalation if you were practicing that. And gently dropping your chin towards your chest. And it might be just a few centimetres, perhaps your chin comes in contact with your upper chest. And there's a little notch between the collarbones, the jugular notch. So aiming for the chin to move towards that point, beginning to wake up the shoulders a little, top of the back. Maybe you begin to open your eyes. And on an inhalation, gently bringing your head back to centre. We're going to stay seated for a little longer, so if you'd like to change the position, either the cross of your legs or come into a slightly different seated position, please know you're welcome to do that. Beginning to bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. Taking those first few moments to notice what's happening here, if this feels strong enough for you, or maybe you begin to bring your right hand towards your head and encouraging a slightly stronger sensation down your left, down the side of your left neck and into the shoulder. And on an inhalation, coming through centre, and exhaling, gently dropping your left ear towards your left shoulder, and once again taking the first few moments to just to tune in to what's going on down the right side of your neck and shoulder. This point here might be enough for you this morning, or maybe you begin to bring your left hand towards your head, encouraging a slightly deeper sensation. On an inhalation, bringing your head back up. And in your own time, turning towards your right hand side, so just the head at this point this morning. You may like to take it a little further, gaze moving over your right shoulder and perhaps even down a little, almost like you're trying to look down towards the floor. Deepening your breath here. Gently bringing your head slowly back up and round and taking your gaze towards your left hand side. Maybe the gaze goes a little further, perhaps towards the floor behind you. I'm beginning to take some deeper breaths here. And in your own time, very gently releasing through your neck and bringing your head slowly back to center. We'll gently come onto our hands and knees, moving any props you need to out of the way. And finding a tabletop position that works for you. If there's any tension or tightness in your wrists, a little bit of height under fingertips, or perhaps coming into a very gentle soft fist here. And beginning to take your hips from side to side. Maybe you begin to take some circular movements. Opportunity here to begin to explore your hips, what's happening for you this morning. And if you get to a point where it just feels like a sort of moment, taking a few breaths there, allowing softness, space to be created. In your own time, finding your way slowly back to center and coming into an extended child. So big to go, toes together, knees wide apart, taking any support you need under ankles or just tucked in behind knees. An option to make it quite a restful shape, maybe elbows resting on the floor, encouraging glutes towards heels. Or maybe you begin to extend through your right hand and then your left, creating some length through the sides of your body. Noticing if you have extended your arms, if your weight is even across the hands. So I have a tendency to hang out on my little finger. So beginning to become aware of the weight through the hands and looking to make it even from the thumb to the little finger. On an inhalation, slowly finding your way back to a tabletop shape. And we'll come through 4 rounds of cat-cow. So beginning to gently drop your belly when you're ready, maybe taking your gaze forwards. And then curling the spine towards the sky into cat. Gaze can move towards the knees, or perhaps the chin tucks in towards the chest again. Maybe you begin to integrate your breath, breathing in to take your gaze forwards, dropping your belly into cow. And exhaling as you come into cat. Taking one more round here. And in your own time, finding your way into a downward facing dog. Extended child, always welcome at any point this morning. Maybe you begin to gently pedal into your feet, making sure your hands feel spread. You have that stable base through the hands, the fingers, the palms. It's an internal rotation of the wrists, and all that means is the weight is even from little fingers to thumbs. If you know you're hypermobile or very flexible, there can be a gentle turn in the wrists. So rather than the middle finger pointing forwards, it's almost your ring finger, 4th finger. You may like to begin to swivel gently on the balls of your feet from one side to another. And when you're ready, beginning to find your way into Uttanasana, a forward fold. So walking hands to feet, feet to hands, any way that feels possible. Bending your knees as much as you need to. Allowing your head, your neck to soften. You may like to shake your head, yes and no. Maybe the fingertips reach the floor, or perhaps you come into the yin yoga shape of dangling, where the hands take hold of opposite elbows. Taking a few breaths here, encouraging some length and space into the calf muscles, hamstrings. Noticing the weight across your feet. Does it feel even, or have you rocked into your heels or your toes? Is it possible to soften shoulders a little more away from ears? And checking in with knees, they haven't collapsed in or collapsed out. In your own time, releasing hands coming to shins, and taking it very, very slowly as you inhale, sliding your hands up the front of your legs, head coming up last, and finding your way into a standing Tadasana. We're going to take our time to come into Utkatasana chair without the hands or the arms to begin with. So you may find you prefer your feet about hip distance apart. A really good way of measuring that is the hip bones. Big toes under hip bones, or sometimes I use my fists. 2 fists in between the feet. It's about hip distance. Hands can come to hips, beginning to sit down in the chair, the imaginary chair behind us. And this is where we need to encourage the inner thighs to turn on. So once again, maybe you take your fists, pop them on the inside of your thighs and give them a squeeze, beginning to engage through the inner thighs. So if you had a block or brick handy, you could also use a prop. Softening shoulders away from ears, gaze just ahead. Really important to keep the inner thighs and quads turned on here as the knees are over the feet, so we're protecting our knees by turning all the muscles on. And when you're ready, inhaling, slowly coming to standing. Maybe giving your legs a little bit of a wiggle. We're going to come through a little bit of movement with chair now. Floating arms up and down. Any shoulder injuries or tightness in the shoulders, hands can stay on hips or just gently in the lower back. Otherwise, finding your Tadasana with feet about hip distance apart, breathing in, sitting down, reaching up towards the sky. So full Utkatasana, thinking about engaging the squeeze of the inner thighs. Exhaling, floating the arms behind you. We're going to take 3 more rounds, breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, floating the arms back, coming out at any point if you need to. Breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, floating the arms behind you. Last round. Bringing the hands to the thighs, finding your way up to standing. Enjoying the release and slowly moving into legs a little, releasing any tension or tightness there. Coming into a half sun salutation, so in the same starting shape, unless you prefer to have your feet together. Beginning to lift your toes, spread your toes. So the stronger or larger surface area we have, the more stable our base. Thinking very much about the inner grip of the thighs. Breathing in when you're ready, reaching up towards the sky. Maybe your gaze follows. Breathing out, folding forwards. Taking a couple of breaths here in Uttanasana, maybe finding a little bit more space and length, the back of your legs. Inhaling, halfway lift, so maybe the fingertips skim the floor or hands come to shins. Exhaling, folding forwards. Bending into your knees as much as you need to, breathing in, reaching up towards the sky, and breathing out to float the arms back down. 1 more round. Breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, folding forwards, always leading with the heart, so we fold from the hips. Releasing the head and neck. On an inhalation, halfway lift, flat back. Exhaling, folding forwards back into our Uttanasana. Bending in your knees, breathing and reaching up towards the sky. And breathing out to float your arms back down to the sides of the body. So we're going to take that 2 more times, but one-armed. So in your own time, finding a placement for your right hand that feels good for you. It might be on the hip, it might be on the lower back. It's a little stronger on the lower back. We're encouraging a bit more space in the right shoulder, pectoral muscle here. Another option might be the back of the hand on the lower back. That's a slightly softer version there. So finding the one that most supports your right shoulder. On an inhalation, reaching up through the left fingertips. Exhaling, we're folding forward. So exactly the same movement as our forward fold into Uttanasana. Can your right elbow move towards the sky a little more? Inhaling, flat back. Exhaling, folding forwards. Inhaling, bending in your knees, breathing and reaching up towards the sky. And breathing out, floating your left hand down, slowly releasing the right. And you may like to give the right wrist a little bit of a roll, shoulder roll, releasing through that side. And we'll take that on the other side. So in your own time, finding your left hand in a position that suits you on this side. And it's likely to be different. If you were right-handed, your right hand's always going to be a little tighter. If you're left-handed, your left shoulder, left hand's going to be tighter. So finding the shape there that best suits this side. Breathing in, reaching up through your right hand. Breathing out, folding forwards. Can your left elbow reach a little closer towards the sky? On an inhalation, coming to our halfway lift or flat back. Exhaling, folding forwards. Inhaling, bending into your knees, breathing in, reaching up towards the sky. And breathing out, floating the right hand all the way down. Releasing the left and taking any movement that feels helpful there. A little bit more work through shoulders and hips. So checking you've got space to step back. Right foot stepping back into a warrior one. So we want the left knee above the left ankle. That's just a safety point for the left knee. Right foot pointing to about 2 o'clock. Take your time to find your stance. You may find it helpful to have your feet hip distance. You may decide you want a slightly longer stance or shorter stance depending on your balance, hips. Finding your warrior one, Virabhadrasana one stance. And then maybe beginning to lift your toes, engaging through the 4 corners of the feet, base of the big toe, base of the little toe, and 2 corners of the heels. Welcome to gently spread your toes and place them back down. Breathing in, we're reaching up through both hands. Hands are staying at about shoulder height to begin with. Shoulders softening away from ears. Take our right arm over our left at the elbow, gently wrapping them around as far as they will go into eagle arms, Garudasana arms. Elbows coming to about shoulder height. So engaging still through the feet. Maybe you'd like to keep the toes lifted. Softening through shoulders. And another option might be to gently lean back. Take the gaze up, the hands up a little as well. Deepening the back bend. Any pain or strain edging off. On an exhalation, gently folding forward. So arms coming towards the left knee. Drawing shoulder blades down your back. Right hip still moving forwards, left hip moving back. Breathing in, coming back to our standing Virabhadrasana. Exhaling, unraveling the arms. Releasing through the shoulders. Pivoting on the right foot, so right toes pointing straight ahead, bending the knees, stepping forwards. And we'll take that on the other side. So beginning to find your warrior Virabhadrasana on the other side. So left foot stepping back this time. Finding your stance on this side. Being mindful, as always, it's likely to be different on one side compared to the other. Just checking in with the right knee, looking for the right knee to be above right ankle here. Maybe you begin to lift your toes, engaging through the four corners of your feet. Spreading toes, regrounding. Inhaling, hands coming to shoulder height. This time the left arm's crossing over the right at the elbow and then wrapping around as far as you can reach. It might just be a very small wrap, or perhaps the fingers almost reach. Elbows come to about shoulder height. You may like to lift your toes, challenging the balance a little bit and also grounding through the soles of the feet. Another option might be to gently lift the elbows, lift the arms, take the gaze upwards if your neck's happy, increasing your back bend. Noticing if the jaw is soft, tongue resting. Exhaling, folding forwards. So elbows coming towards right knee. Shoulder blades drawing down your back. Inhaling, coming back through and up to center. Exhaling, releasing through the hands. And then making sure the left foot pivots, toes pointing forwards, so we're safe with the knee. Bending into both knees, left foot stepping forwards. And you may like to take the hips from side to side here a little, maybe even a figure of 8 or a couple of circles. And we'll begin to come through a bit of a flow. So when you're ready, finding the top end of your mat, beginning to ground through both feet. Feet could be together or hip distance apart. Finding your stable base, length through the spine, and noticing where your chin is. Is there a centimetre or two? There's just a bit of a tuck lengthening through the back of your neck. On an inhalation, reaching up. Exhaling, folding forwards. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, folding forwards. From here, bending into the knees, we're stepping into warrior one again. So right foot is stepping back. Slowly finding your way up, adjusting your feet as you need to. Hands can come to hips to begin with. Breathing in here, reaching up towards the sky. Softening through shoulders, maybe your gaze follows. Is the right quad turned on? Maybe you lift the toes to check your feet are engaged. And we're going to begin to flow through the arms. So option to rest the arms at any point or rest them on the lower back. Exhaling, floating the arms behind you, reaching away. Inhaling, reaching up. Exhaling, floating the arms behind you. Inhaling, reaching up. Taking 2 more rounds like this, working with your breath. Trying to encourage the breath and the movement to work as one. And eventually finding your way into our warrior one once again. Exhaling, folding forwards, finding a downward facing dog. So taking your time to find your downward dog any way that feels possible. Thinking about the spread of your hands, weight even from the thumb to the little finger. Maybe you begin to pedal the legs, or perhaps your body's ready for stillness. Option to drop towards the knees and step your right foot forwards, or perhaps you lift your right leg behind you, three-legged dog, and begin to swing it to the front of the mat. We're going to meet in Virabhadrasana 1 again on the other side. So left foot grounding, finding your way up, right knee over right ankle, hands coming to hips to begin with. This time we'll begin to float our arms out towards the side. So breathing in and reaching up, scooping a circular movement, and exhaling, reaching all the way down. Taking 3 more, working with your breath. Left hip gently moving forwards, right hip moving back. And when you have finished your 4th round, ending up in our still version of Virabhadrasana, maybe the gaze is moving up towards the sky, perhaps the gaze is straight ahead. Listening to your head, listening to your neck. Exhaling, we're folding forwards. Finding a plank here, so taking your time either on knees or toes to find your plank. Same setup as downward dog through the hands, so really beginning to spread through fingers, inner elbows facing each other, shoulders drawing away from ears. Gentle navel towards spine, Mula Bandha, pelvic floor lift as well. Exhaling, gently dropping to knees, chest and chin. Option here to come into a gentle cobra, or perhaps you reach behind you with the fingertips. Hands reaching towards the toes, palms facing down, a half locust. So just a chest lift, gaze just ahead. Exhaling, hands coming to just underneath shoulders. Inhaling, downward facing dog or extended child. Finding your shape here. Movement or stillness welcome. So listening, making sure your body feels it's getting what it needs this morning at this point in your practice. And we're coming into our pigeon shape. So gently dropping down to right knees, to both knees, sorry. Right knee coming forward. So sliding the right knee forward. And this might be your version this morning. This might be just what you need. Or perhaps you begin to encourage the right toes to the left side of your mat. Now for some of us, that's going to be a strong angle, 30 to 45 degrees. Some of us will maybe be able to get our shin in parallel with the front edge of the mat. There shouldn't be any pain or strain. It can be quite strong in the right hip and the glute. If there's any pain or strain edging off, or coming to the supine version where you lie down, briefly demonstrate and come to right ankle on front of left knee. Checking in with the left leg. If you are in the upright version of pigeon, you may like to tuck your left toes, lift the left knee, reach your way through the left heel, and then gently place the left knee back down and release the foot. And then option to fold forwards if that feels helpful. So if you feel you have the mobility and you'd like a slightly deeper stretch, maybe you walk the hands forwards, resting on the elbows, or perhaps coming all the way down to rest your forehead on your hands, or a block. An option always to have a little bit of support under your right hip if that feels helpful as well. And thinking of a pigeon, quite literally, I like to think of a wood pigeon rather than a scrawny London pigeon. Lifting heart upwards, creating space in the upper body for your breath. in your own time, finding your way into a downward facing dog or extended child. So very gently, very slowly releasing through the right leg. And using your down dog to bend into the knees, bring some length back to the right leg. Once again, option to drop to knees and step your right foot forwards, or perhaps you lift your right leg and swing it through. Left foot follows, we're back into our forward fold or Uttanasana. Bending into your knees, breathing in, reaching up towards the sky. And breathing out to bring the hands back down, sides of your body. Taking a moment there before we work through the other side. So maybe you begin to gently rock forwards and backwards on your toes and heels, finding your midpoint, your center point. Feet could be together or hip distance apart. This time we'll take our arms out towards the sides of our body. So on an inhalation, reaching out towards the sides and up. Swallow dive, hands coming out to the sides again as you dive forwards. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, Uttanasana. Bending into your knees, left foot stepping back. We're coming into warrior one on this side. So finding your shape as you rise up, right knee over right ankle. And then breathing in, perhaps coming into cactus arms this time. So welcome to take any version of Virabhadrasana that feels supportive to you this morning. Heart lifting. If you've come into cactus arms, you might like to breathe in and reach up. Breathe out, bending into the elbows, opening up through the heart center a little more. Breathing in to reach up through the fingertips. Breathing out to drop your elbows. Taking 2 more rounds if you're bringing movement. Exhaling, folding forwards, taking your time to find a downward facing dog. So notice if your body's ready for stillness when you get to downward dog. Really welcome to take a child's pose here. Is there any difference in the back of your legs? Are you noticing some more length? Checking in with your head and neck. Softening the chin towards the chest. Option to drop to knees and step the left foot forwards, or perhaps you lift your left leg, 3-legged dog. Bending into the left knee and stepping it through. We're coming into Virabhadrasana on the other side. So planting your right foot down, right toes pointing to about 2 o'clock on the face of the clock. Left knee over left ankle. Breathing in, reaching up. Option once again, cactus arms, opening through the upper body. Gaze can stay forwards if that feels a little softer on your lower back. Breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, bending into the elbows. Taking 3 more rounds. And at the end of your 4th round, when you're ready, folding forwards, finding your plank, taking your time to find a plank. Stable hands, either on knees or toes, spreading your fingers. Gentle engagement of pelvic floor, navel towards spine. Exhaling, gently dropping down to knees, chest, chin. Perhaps you rest here in crocodile for a moment. Stacking forearms, head resting, or perhaps you come into locust, fingertips reaching away towards your feet, lifting through the upper chest. If you'd like to include your legs, lifting the legs and the feet, toes reaching away. Inner engagement of the inner thighs here, so we're supporting our lumbar spine, sacroiliac joint. Imagining you're squeezing something between the thighs. Exhaling gently, allowing your body to reach towards the mat. Inhaling, downward facing dog. Transition here into pigeon on the other side. So bending down into knees, knees coming towards the floor. Left knee coming forwards. Listening to your body here, working out if this feels okay for you. Knowing there's the option on your back if you prefer to come to that. Perhaps it's fingertips, maybe it's soft fists, maybe it's full hands or palms. And then maybe you begin to encourage the left toes towards the right side of the mat. And this is where I quite literally take my foot and put it where I'd like it. So finding here a shape that where you have a strong sensation, but it doesn't hurt. There's no strain or pain. We're encouraging our left hip back, our right hip forwards, bringing to mind our wood pigeon, finding space through heart center. And maybe you tuck your right toes, lifting the right knee, reaching away through the right heel, and gently allowing the leg back down towards the floor, creating a bit more length down the right hand side of the body. Welcome to fold forwards, coming onto elbows, maybe creating a pillow with your hands for your forehead. Shoulder blades drawing down, facial muscles soft, tongue resting. In your own time, slowly finding your way up if you did fold forwards. Left heel can come underneath your left glute, slowly finding a downward facing dog, creating length again in the left leg. Option to drop to knees and step your left foot forwards, or perhaps you lift your left leg, bend into the left knee and swing it through. Right foot follows, either parallel or feet together, Uttanasana. And as you rise up, breathing in, hands coming out towards the sides of your body, reaching out and away, creating a circle almost. Exhaling, taking the hands again out to the sides of the body, fingertips reaching down. Eventually finding your way towards the floor. I'm going to come into I call it my squint position, but kneeling is how I usually come to it, and then taking your heels towards the left hand side. If this feels uncomfortable anyway, you can soften through the knees a little, and maybe even sit on a block. Block under the lower hip can feel quite helpful, just takes a little bit of pressure off the knees. So feet have come to the left, and we're beginning to turn towards the right. Softening through shoulders. Maybe the gaze moves over your right shoulder a little further. Coming back to our downward breath as we breathe in, encouraging your breath to move to the lower lobes of your lungs. Breathing out, breath moving upwards. Inhaling when you're ready, coming through center, and very gently turning towards the left hand side. It might be just a little here. So an open and a closed seated twist this morning. Inhaling, coming through center. And changing the side of your legs. So beginning to, you may like to gently rock forward, swivel the heels towards the right hand side, using any props that feel helpful on this side. And in your own time, beginning to turn towards the left hand side. So heels are towards the right, we're turning towards the left. Maybe your gaze moves a little further over your left shoulder. Staying in the present moment, breathing in, breathing out, watching your breath. Inhaling, slowly coming through center. Exhaling, turning towards the right hand side. And slowly breathing in to come finally back to center. Releasing your shape, we're going to begin to come down towards our mat, lying down. So taking any extra layers you need or would like to have nearby for relaxation. Any support for your head. And beginning to find your feet grounding. And you may prefer to have your feet a little further away, softening through the lower back. A lot of lower back and lumbar spine work this morning, or perhaps the feet come closer into your pelvis. Just taking a bit of time there to find your happy place. Shoulders softening and beginning to draw your right knee in. Might just be a very soft, gentle hug, or perhaps you begin to bring your right knee in towards your chest. You might also like to bring some movement to your foot. So welcome to spread your toes or take some circles through the right ankle. In your own time, planting your right foot down and drawing your left knee in. And taking time here to notice the difference between the hips. Perhaps there's a softness. Whilst we've been working with shoulders a lot this morning, lower back, but also hips in our warriors and our pigeon. Maybe you begin to bring some movement through the left foot, left ankle. And gently releasing the left foot back down. When you're ready, bringing both knees in for a hug, so Apanasana. Option here to gently take the knees in and let go, or maybe you begin to circle your knees a little, taking a few circles in one direction and then the other, massaging your lower back. And welcome to gently draw your knees out towards the sides, big toes almost touching, beginning to work into the inner thighs a little more, hip flexors. And if you'd like something a little stronger, coming into happy baby. So that might take the form of first and second finger, middle finger, taking hold of big toes, encouraging knees towards armpits. And perhaps you hold on to your ankles, encourage the knees towards armpits. Another option might be taking hold of the little toe edge of your feet and encouraging knees to armpits. So finding the version there that suits you, or perhaps you stay with me with the knees wide, toes together. Four more breaths here. And in your own time, allowing your feet to come back down towards your mat. And maybe you begin to find your feet a little wider, almost as wide as your mat, and gently taking your knees from side to side. Hands can rest on the floor beside you. A windscreen wiper movement. Taking any final movements your body's asking for before you come into relaxation. And you may like to have the knees bent this morning, or perhaps some support under the knees in Shavasana, supporting the lower back. Really welcome to come into Viparita Karani, legs up the wall or on a chair, or perhaps you find a different shape will serve you better this morning. Just ensuring you feel comfortable, grounded, warm. And as you begin to find stillness, taking these last few moments here to ensure you're comfortable, beginning to soften through all the joints in your body, maybe beginning with your toes, ankles, knees, softening in your hips, shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers and thumbs. Allowing your glutes to soften and melt in towards the earth beneath you. Encouraging your tongue to rest in the lower part of your mouth. Is it possible to soften across your facial muscles, your forehead? Anchoring your mind to your breath, watching your breath as it flows in and flows out. Sense of stillness, support from the earth. Allowing yourself this time to rest and restore. Perhaps you're able to stay in relaxation for a little longer. Or maybe you begin to take some deeper breaths. If it feels helpful, sighing your breath out. Beginning to awaken your lungs. And eventually awaken your body. Perhaps you begin to bring some movement through your head and your neck. Turning your head from side to side, or beginning to gently move wrists and ankles, fingers and toes. Remembering that beautiful word ahimsa, compassion and kindness, offering yourself compassion and kindness as you gently awaken from relaxation. Beginning to bring some more movement to your body. That might be a knee hug or a full body stretch. Using your energy, movement wisely. And eventually finding yourself rolling over onto one side, your right or your left, whichever side you're most drawn to this morning. Maybe offering your head some support with an arm or a hand. And eventually, in your own time, finding your way up to a seated position. Taking any support and props that feel helpful. And finding length through your spine, softness in your shoulders. Maybe encouraging your tongue to rest for the last few moments of our class together. Welcome to join me in bringing your hands together at Heart Centre if you'd like to, and Jali Mudra. Thanking yourself from your heart for practicing yoga this morning, giving yourself that gift. Thank you for joining me